What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Truth Addiction. This is the channel that deals with the disease of addiction and all the ways it manifests itself. I am a recovering addict, and my name is Brian. I suffer from a disease which is incurable, progressive, and sometimes fatal. It can, however, be arrested at some point, and recovery is then possible. I'm sitting here with my man, Jon. What's going on, Jon? Can I get a pound?
What's up, Brian? How you doing?
We're out here celebrating recovery and life.
Celebrating recovery in Ripley, West Virginia.
Ripley, West Virginia.
It's like a humid 85 degrees at like 9:30 in the morning, but it's gorgeous.
It's getting hot. It's definitely getting hot. So, you know, before we get this started, I just want to say, you know, like the video for me, and I appreciate you guys watching the channel. Like he just said, we took the show on the road, drove about, what, 8 hours to get here? Because we love recovery.
Should have been like 6.5, but some people have weak bladders.
It felt like 12. So anyway, man, what we do here is, man, I got some questions I ask people in recovery, man, and so you could tell me and them, you know, about your life and active addiction, and then we'll get right on to what you do today, man.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
All right, so introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been clean, man.
All right, so my name's Jon. I picked a clean date. It was July 15th, 2010. I'm not 100% sure. Well, I'm actually convinced that I wasn't actually clean or sober that day, but it was the day I checked myself into my last treatment, and it was the day I made a commitment to do something different. So I'm sticking with that as my clean date. So it's been...
How long has it been?
This July will be 13 years.
13 years. All right, cool, man. Congratulations on that.
Thanks. Got to get there still. You know, can't count the time before it happens, but...
So, tell us about your early childhood, where you were born, where you were raised, and a little bit about, you know, young Jon.
Man, you sound like a therapist.
We're going there.
I'm already uncomfortable.
We're going there, man.
All right, so I was born in Jersey, New Brunswick. Interesting part of town where, you know, I was like, grew up on like the very diverse and very secluded. Like one side was like where this group hung out, like this ethnic group. This side's where like that ethnic group hung out. And like, I always wanted to be different, so I didn't hang out with my people. I wanted to hang out with some other people, you know. And young childhood, my parents were together, but they didn't really know how to raise a child or be nurturing or loving or supporting. So some of the recovery literature we read talks about having childhood needs met and being spiritually fulfilled and giving and receiving love. And I was never taught to do that by, you know, an adult figure. So I sought that out in the neighborhood early on, got into a lot of trouble.
Hold on. Let's not jump the gun here.
Oh.
So do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I got a younger brother, about 3 years younger than me.
So were any drugs prevalent in your house when you were you know, young?
Not really.
No, you were. So you had a decent childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Because, you know, we get hit with that stigma of like, in order for you to have the disease of addiction, you had to have like this fucking whacked ass childhood.
No, my parents didn't do drugs. Like I said, they did the best they possibly could, and they were pretty good influences all around.
All right, cool. So, what about like teenage years, man? How was that? Like, did you tell us? Did you graduate school? What high school did you go to?
I bounced around a lot in high school. So I started like smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, and drinking when I was about 11. So the things that go along with that, you know, getting kicked out of schools, getting into fights, and I wasn't even, you know, back then it wasn't like the substance was the thing that was the problem. The substance was just part of like my persona of trying to find somewhere to fit in and seek people, right? But like when I did a lot of dumb shit for attention and to fit in. So I was in my first juvenile facility when I was 12, you know what I mean? Bounced around, got kicked out of numerous high schools, bounced around, started out going to high school in Jersey, moved to Bucks County, graduated high school in an institution.
Damn.
You know, which was, thought I graduated in an institution. Found out 4 years later I never actually graduated, but that's a story for another time. But anyway, I already had an associate's degree from college when I found out I didn't have a high school diploma.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that happen?
Got lost in a system.
Really?
Yeah, and they were just like, let's
Nice.
push me through.
Cheat the system.
So when I went back to high school, I was like 21, and I'm like, yo, I think I want to go to a real college, but they want my transcript. I'm like, you guys got it? And they were like, absolutely not. You didn't graduate. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm coming back and buying everybody beer. And they were like, no, we're going to figure something out here.
Right. So did you play any sports or hobbies?
I wrestled and played basketball.
Did you? For school? For high school? Or?
Wrestled for school, played basketball for school 2 years, wrestled for 1 year. And that was the extent of school hobbies, just because, I bounced around too much to participate in a season.
So, all right. So let me ask you this, man. So when's the first time you used? How old were you?
About 11.
You were 11?
Yeah.
You were younger than me. I started out kind of late. What was it? What did you use?
Just at 11 was like smoking weed, drinking, and cigarettes. And then I was already on medication that I was abusing and didn't even realize. Like the doctor actually co-signed me essentially abusing the medication. It was Adderall.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The doctor basically said, if you want to sleep in, skip your morning dose. You want to go to bed early, don't take your afternoon dose, things like that. It's like the doctor's already conditioning me to, take a medication based off of how I want to feel, which
it's like
in itself,
it's like it's a boxing doctor almost.
I don't know if they knew better.
Well, I had a Suboxone doctor, right? And what the wild thing about that was, how a doctor prescribes you what they think you should take?
Yeah.
Well, with a Suboxone doctor, it's like, how many you want? 30, 60, or 90? How much cash you got?
Yeah.
It's a wild thing, man. So, how'd that make you feel, man? Your first use? You remember, like?
I do. I remember being so stoned behind a path mark, not knowing what was going on, and getting wasted and walking through this little townhome neighborhood trying to go into the community pool and just making a fool of myself. But like, a lot of people talk about like this warm fuzzy feeling you get, like there was a time, and it was when I found Oxycontin, like later on, like 18, 19 years old, when like, that's when the world stopped, like the cold, dark, depressing world like stopped, and everything got warm, fuzzy, and like great, and all my problems in the world stopped, and everything was okay when I found that. That wasn't my experience, early on with like, other pharmaceuticals, with like drinking, smoking weed, like doing a little coke. Like that wasn't the experience. Like it was more just doing those substances because there was a crowd I wanted to fit in with, and so that's what they did.
That comes to my next question, which is, do you think that was a peer pressure thing, that first use?
No, I don't think it was a peer pressure. I think I sought out people who were doing things like that because they looked like...
You were the pressure.
Yeah, they looked like they were having fun.
Peer pressuring motherfuckers.
They looked like they were having fun, and I wanted to experience fun.
Yeah, I was definitely peer pressured because I hated drugs. My mom was all whacked out. The people that watch this know that already, but I mean, so I was that anti-drug guy. No drugs, man. I was the guy walking on the corner in South Philly, like, what are these guys doing in your life? At
how'd that
age.
work out for you?
Well, I started drinking 40s. I'll tell you how it worked out. I was sucking down St. Ides with Xanax in it after a while. But yeah, so it's just for me personally, I feel like I was powerless from the fucking first one because I did the first one against my will. I already knew what was coming, and I still did it. So let me ask you this. Looking back at that, right? Because we work steps. You've been clean for a while. Looking back at that before that first use, do you see signs of the disease of addiction?
100%.
Explain that to us, man.
All right, so what some of our literature talks about is an inner gnawing, a hole in the gut, not being able to be content on our own. And like I've never felt okay growing up. I never felt loved. I never felt accepted. I wanted to seek acceptance through others. And that was part of the initial drug use. Like I think some people talk about using drugs against their will, right? Like you do. Yeah. And there was a time where my brain wired and changed, and I was definitely using against my will, right? So I can relate to that, but that wasn't the experience at first.
In the beginning,
I sought that because there was something missing, and I sought to drugs to fix it. And you know what? At first it didn't. Okay. But there was a group of people that I was around that I thought were going to fix it just by interacting with them. So they were doing it. It wasn't peer pressure. I sought it out. But like there was definitely something missing and I didn't want to feel like myself. I didn't want to be myself, because if I hated me, you would too. You know what I mean?
Right.
How could you accept me if I can't accept myself? So if I let you get to know me for who I am, you would think as lowly of me as I do of myself. And that was the basis of all the,
And you weren't, do you think you were aware of that at the time, or you know it because of where you're at now today with a program in your life? Like, in other words, I feel the same way, but I can tell you this, I wasn't consciously at that time going, oh, I know I'm using just to take myself out of myself. It was just like, I had this overwhelming need to just do it.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Are we going back 12, 13? 13-year-old kids don't have that sense of self-awareness, no matter how great they are.
Yeah.
Cloud mine with over-medicated and already using substances. There was no way I had that awareness. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a discovery process looking
My
back
point
on
to
it.
that is, it was through a 12-step process that you came to understand that.
All I knew then is that I didn't feel okay and I needed something different. And I didn't know what I was seeking, but I needed something different because what I was doing wasn't working.
All right, so you've been clean 13 years, you said?
12 still. It'll be
okay.
13 in July, so.
All right, so take us from that first use when you're 12 years old up until you got clean this time. And if you could, just kind of break down that progression, man.
All right, so it started with little things, weed, alcohol, cigarettes, right? And then we start to do some pharmaceuticals along the way, but there were long periods of abstinence in between because I was institutionalized. And it's really, juvenile institutions aren't like adult jails. Like, it's really hard to get stuff in there,
Right.
So there were long periods of abstinence, so I wasn't aware that the substance was the problem. I was aware that something was missing, and I was aware that I was uncomfortable, but drugs were always there. So got out of a facility when I was 18, started a real nasty coke habit that progressed. During that, I started speedballing, found oxys, and it wasn't too long after finding Oxycontin that things just progressed and progressed and progressed.
Yeah.
And then there were rehabs and more progression, and then there was just this time where I truly felt trapped. You know what I mean? I always felt like I had a little bit of control in me. Like, I knew that I wasn't gonna stop using. You know what I mean? Even when I was using shit I didn't like it wasn't like I'm gonna stop using.
Did you have a drug of choice?
Yeah, opiates for the most part. So
okay.
I discovered Oxycontin, I fell in love. I didn't know a ton about dope, but I knew that I was probably, I was a snorter. I was probably snorting about 1080s a day, right?
Damn.
And I thought that my problem was specifically with Oxycontin. So I went to a couple rehabs, tried to get off of that. And then I tried to trick myself into thinking that those little, not to get too graphic, but I was trying to trick myself into being if I progress to dope, I'm an addict. But I had and we're talking 13 years ago, so these things were still, they weren't what they are today. They weren't fentanyl pressed, and they were relatively cheap if you knew where to go still.
Yeah.
So I had some connections, and I was getting these 30s for extremely cheap, and I was like, if I just use these little blue 30 pills, they're not even Oxycontin, I don't have a problem.
Right.
Before you know it, I'm doing 50 or 60 a day, right, just to maintain.
Yeah.
And then I'm all right, maybe I have a problem. And then, things went off to the races, and then I was on I was at this point where I had woke up, I had induced a withdrawal, because I was I'm gonna quit today. So I induced a withdrawal.
I'm gonna quit today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the worst withdrawal. Never induce a withdrawal, right? Was, and since we're being graphic, I had just used 3 hours before, railed a bunch of oxys at this point, and probably dissolve 2 or 3 Suboxones under my tongue 3 hours later, thinking it's not going to affect me. Dude, it was the worst sickness I've ever felt. Worse than being dope sick. I've been dope sick before, and that's a pain worse than death. But this withdrawal was the absolute worst withdrawal I've ever experienced.
I did the same thing, man. Yeah.
And the fucked up thing is, no matter what I took that day, it wouldn't go away. Normally, when you're that dope sick, you can just get something, and you're all right, at least I'm not throwing up. At least the bone aches aren't there. This was just
because you had the receptors blocked.
Dude,
it's fucked you. I had that too, bro. I was sick for 4 days, and
so
it didn't matter what I did.
Yeah, I'm just in a fetal position, throwing up on myself and shit. And I'm like, something's gonna change. And
yeah,
we talk about being hopeless. At that point, I was like, I'm gonna kill myself. And then there was this, I don't know what it was, and the only way I can describe it is God, right? Like, because we talk about a spiritual awakening. A spiritual awakening is like a God moment. And that doesn't mean like the God in the sky. Like,
Right.
my spiritual beliefs are not religious. It's not like there's one entity, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just think that like spirituality as a whole needs to be respected and deserves, like, everybody's got their own sense of spirituality and what like higher beings and higher powers are.
Yeah.
And like, I think that everybody has their own truth, and I think I could benefit from all of them. And then I formulate my own ideas, right? So it's not like a religious, God, and like if I, while I'm out here, if I have premarital sex, I'm going to hell. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that, dude. Most of the
Who
sex.
wants to worship a God like that? Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
but I do
or-
think so. I'm not religious either, but I think it's a very important thing to have that higher power thing, to have that spiritual sense about things. I find the power in the people. You know what I mean? That's where it goes. And things like this, like like when we're looking at around us, beautiful place.
Yeah, this is gorgeous.
Lakes. I get a spiritual sense just out of this, man.
It's beautiful. This
You know
is
what I mean?
like gorgeous. So, I forget where we were going on a tangent. What was the question?
You're running your progression.
Okay, yeah. And then like, I really thought that like I was gonna kill myself, but there were one person in particular, and this person doesn't even know like the influence that like she had, but like I knew she was doing well, and I knew she used like me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like she was in a 12-step program, and I was just like, you know what? I was like, I'm gonna try it. I was like, I got nothing to lose, because like, let me just say I did it, and I'm probably gonna take myself out later. Because like, it's not gonna work. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
yeah,
it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
But for me to honestly say it's not gonna work, I have to honestly try it. And like I have gone to 12-step meetings before, and people have given me suggestions. In particular, stop fucking using drugs.
Yeah.
Because that was a suggestion I didn't want to take at first. You know what I mean? It was more of like, I want to use drugs, but not this drug, because I'm addicted to this one.
Yeah.
But I'm not addicted to that one.
I'm not addicted to that one.
And alcohol's not a drug. That's what normal people do. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you're gonna tell me alcohol's not a drug? Like, I can't take, like, if I'm not feeling okay, I can't just like take half a Xanny or a Xanny to take the edge off. Like, we're not even talking about like, I'm not even talking about a handful. Like, I'm not talking about getting high. I'm talking about taking the edge off. Like, I'm not able to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the last year or two of me using was just to be normal.
yeah.
I wasn't even getting high anymore.
Absolutely.
I just was like begging to be normal, dude. And it's a weird thing. All right, so life goes to hell. You fuck shit up, and you get to the point where you're coming up, where you're about to be clean. Break down your last use, the day before your last use. What's going through your head? What's happening on that day?
So I had a friend that was taking me to a treatment center I've been to before.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And, I had been exposed to the 12-step programs enough, not saying I knew what to do, but like, I understood that when people say, I know, when people say, I got this, when people say, I'm gonna do it my way, like, I had a basic understanding of the concept of surrender.
Right.
And I had a basic understanding of the concept of humility. And like, what humility meant to me then is just, I was fucking broken and I really don't know. And like, I've tried my way and it kicked my ass. That was my idea of, the spiritual principle of humility. So like, I surrendered. I remember checking myself into that rehab. There was a counselor there that gave me a hug because she was really sweet. And she was like, welcome back. It's not like I wasn't even gone a year from that one. So it's not like I was gone that long from that particular facility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she was like, this is your new counselor. And I remember shaking his hand because I met him last time. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I told you to fuck off last time because like I knew better than you. And I was like, look, dude, I'm sorry. And I was like, just tell me what to do. And like, I think that was the only conversation I had with him. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that told him to kick rocks. So like, he like looked at me and he was like, who the hell are you? You're probably going to leave here AMA in 5 days.
We come in angry as fuck. There's no doubt about it.
No,
right?
I wasn't angry this time though. Like this time like I went to him and I shook his hand and I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. I was like, last time, like I was angry. I was like, this time just
So
tell me what to do.
you were at desperation mode. You were in total desperation.
I was
mode
kind of just like, I didn't have hope that it was going to, I had maybe a sliver of hope that it was going to work, but I wanted to rule it out.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like I wanted to rule out the possibility that this is going to work. But like for me to honestly rule it out,
Yeah.
it's not like just to say I rule it out and I go to a meeting one time and I come late and I leave early and then I go get high afterward and say this shit didn't work. Like for me to honestly rule it out, like I had to dive in and do what you said. Like I had to make a commitment to it for a while to rule it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to commit to it for long enough just to rule it out to make sure it doesn't work.
And you have to put the drug down first to even do that.
Yeah. And
Because you're just, yeah.
so let's talk about putting the drug down.
Okay.
Do you have any idea how that happens? Like, can you describe the process of putting a drug down?
Yeah. I'll
Go
tell
for
you,
it.
here's my process. DHS came in and took my fucking kids because I couldn't stop getting high, to the point where my sister had to step in and take fucking custody of my kids, right? I was being evicted. I had turned my water on illegally for like the third time.
I don't even know how to do that. I want to learn.
Dude, picture me. I'm out there on the... Dude, I did where I dug up the pavement out front to turn the fucking water on. You know,
that's
extension
awesome.
cord running
Yeah.
from my neighbor's house to have my fridge running. But here's the crazy part. There was nothing even in the fucking refrigerator. You know what I mean? And I would go
Yeah.
back and forth from the fridge to the fucking microwave, right? Because, listen, I had to have one.
Yep.
I didn't have no money to be paying bills. Fuck all that. I remember heating my, listen, I get real on this channel because I try to fucking connect.
Yeah.
I remember heating my fucking kids' bathwater up in a fucking microwave.
Yep.
And then keep trying to make a bath.
But
That's what it was. That's what was a. That's
So is
my
that
process.
a process or is that circumstance that drove you to desperation? What I'm saying, now hear me out before you
go ahead.
respond. There's a process to staying clean. It's the 12 steps, it's getting a sponsor, it's participating in your recovery fellowship. There's a process to baking a cake. You have ingredients.
Right.
One thing I've never discovered, and this was one of the first spiritual awakenings I had, is that you can detail what drove you to a point of desperation,
Right.
but nobody can say if you do X, Y, and Z, you're gonna be desperate enough to put the drugs down and get 24 hours clean.
There's no. Well, you want to know why? I think because for everybody, it's different.
Yeah.
It's an individual basis.
And
Because listen,
Yep.
some people it could be the threat of, my husband or my wife's going to leave me. I'm fucking up my marriage or something.
But then now we're getting like philosophical, like why is that enough for some people but not enough for others? You know what I mean? Some people are like, okay, leave. You're just keeping me from using.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I guess.
Well, there's levels to it.
Yep.
There's levels to the desperation.
Yeah.
Just like there's levels to recovery. You can just linger around meetings and probably stay clean for a while.
Yep.
But if you don't go in and do some internal fucking work, some step
Change your
work,
way of life.
eventually you could find yourself fucking, and you might not even get to a drug. You might just be out there losing your life on a fucking slot machine or something. You know what I mean?
Yep. But so let me bring that back real quick. Like I struggled with the concept of like a higher power for a while.
Yeah.
And like one of the first spiritual awakenings I had, or one of the deepest ones I've had, was that how can I possibly deny that there's a higher power if he took me from the rat race? Not he, I'm just saying he, it's not a he,
I guess,
right?
yeah, it's the lingo.
It could be a
It's the lingo,
deity.
yeah.
But if it took me from the rat race of, just waking up, finding ways and means to get another one,
Yeah.
and my life revolved around just fighting off being dope sick,
Right.
to now I have 24 hours clean, like that's a miracle and it's a gift from God. And that was my first spiritual awakening that made me realize there's some kind of higher power. Like I believe it takes some kind of divine or spiritual intervention to get you that first 24 hours. Because in all the things I've read, it'll say, we suggest you come back. It'll say, we suggest you come back clean. It'll say, once you are clean, here are the steps we take. But everybody's process of getting that first day is completely different and completely unique. And it takes something in your life to
Yeah.
lead you to a point of desperation.
Right.
And I think that's, if you look at that, that's some kind of, if you want to call it divine intervention. And I think that's God.
Well, and I agree. To me, it's how does God come through? Through the people. So in a sense, it is your mom and your dad saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to have this in my house anymore. You're going to get the fuck out, or you're going to get better. Or, you know what I mean? Or it's a judge saying, yo,
I agree.
You're fucking about to go up the river, bro. You want to go up the river, or you want to go no fucking detox? Whatever it is that gets us here, It's usually desperation.
I agree.
I've never met anybody that just came into a fucking meeting
Yeah.
like, woo, life's great. I'm fucking smoking
And
crack.
the thing
it's
that
great.
gives me the sense of spirituality, and whatever it is, if it's a God, if it's, you know, like I've like done all kinds of things from like read, you know, I have a roommate who's in a Dharma, and I was reading into that, to, you know, Buddhism, to just, you know, being in nature, to, you know, looking at religions. And I'm not saying I studied each one like extensively, but each spiritual, and just the people too, right? Or just nature. Like each person who talks about spirituality brings something to the table, but it's a miracle that it all aligns. Like one day where we're like, I'm going to listen to that judge today. Yesterday I would have told him to fuck himself, but today I'm going to listen.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
and it amazes me. I don't know.
So, you remember your first meeting? And what I mean by that is, do you remember? And did you have like was there a seed planted in that, or were you kind of like, fuck this shit, this ain't for me? Or
I don't remember my first meeting. Yeah, I do remember that when I went into the meetings, I remember some of the people, I remember some of the faces, I remember there was a seed planted that it was a safe place, it was a happy place, it was a loving and caring place, and it was a place it was a place I'm probably eventually gonna come to.
Okay.
Now, my first meeting.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
My first meeting clean.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
You remember?
You know what I mean? I remember my first meeting clean out of rehab this time. Like I was sitting in the back of the room scared. And it was right down the street from my parents' house, so I begged them to like come and like babysit me. And then
at the meeting?
Yeah.
You had your parents come to the
I had
meeting?
my parents come and sit in the back of the meeting with me. It's a
Was it- you think
24-year-old
that-
kid.
You think that was a little something of like, let me show my parents I'm actually doing something here, or?
I don't know. I think I was just scared.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I really don't know
It
what
is
the
a
motivation
scary
was.
thing. It's a scary
Yeah.
thing to enter a fucking
But-
meeting and your life's all broken the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't want to go. I was terrified. And like I had nobody, you know, in my life, and I was just kind of like begged them to come
Do you
with me.
think that the terrified part is more of I'm gonna fail?
I don't know where the fear came
Yeah,
from. And
yeah.
at this point, I don't think it matters. You know,
Right,
like
right,
going
right,
back
yeah,
that
you're
point.
there as long as
Yeah,
you know
but
you're in it.
the cool thing is I was at this meeting, and then a buddy I used to use with, you know what I mean, who went to the same like high school as I did, one of the high schools I went to, right? Showed up after the meeting, lived right across the street, got off of work, came and he was like, dude, I'm hungry. He's like, anybody want to go to Taco Bell? And I was just like, I ain't got no money. And he's like, and then I recognized who he was.
Yeah.
And he was just like, scooped me up. And like for the first like 2 or 3 weeks, he like took me around to all the meetings, and it was, you know, introduced me to a bunch of people, and it was cool. He didn't stay around long, but he stayed around long enough to introduce me to
You will
those people.
listen. You will meet people that are willing and ready to give it freely back what was given to them, whatever that is. Hey, kid, you want to go to this fucking diner after this meeting?
Yep.
Like you're gonna go to sleep tonight clean.
Yeah.
I mean that's their goal. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So let me ask you this. So when you hear like somebody has a disease of addiction, what does that mean to you? What does that mean? Like, yo, that guy over there has a disease of addiction. Explain that to me.
I can't.
No?
I think like there's a textbook definition that says a man or woman whose life is controlled by drugs.
Right.
But it's so much deeper, and I think addiction,
Yeah, I want to know what you think. Like, just what pops in your head.
I think that's almost the same as saying, what does it mean if somebody has depression? You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's such like an individual. If I made the admission that I'm an addict, I suffer from the disease of addiction. I believe that. It means I'm not, you know, you could simply be diseased. I'm not at ease with myself, right? Dis
Right.
means not, ease means comfortable. I'm not fucking comfortable, right?
Right.
Or it could be such a deeper meaning, but it's a spiritual thing. If you've made the admission that you're an addict, and I've made the admission that that I'm an addict,
Right.
we can now have a conversation about what addiction is, what it means, and we can relate to each other on a level that other people can't, and we can help each other on a level that other people don't understand. But like, that's like asking what the disease of addiction is almost asking like what God is. It's a journey of discovery and understanding that I may never understand.
Yeah. Or
I don't know if that,
or what love is.
yeah, like,
One of those.
you know,
things. Yeah.
it's an individual thing. We all have our general ideas.
So dig this. So, all right, you fuck shit up. You make it to your rehab, detox, whatever. You go into a meeting, and now you've been clean for 12 years. All right. You entered 12-step recovery. You said you had a little bit, I got to at least try it before I could say it doesn't work. So here you are 12 years later. Break it down, man. You know, what's
What's the secret to happiness and success? What's the secret to happiness?
What do you do today to stay clean?
Fuck.
To still be clean after 12 years.
Well, we're here in West Virginia driving 6.5 to 8 hours celebrating recovery, and what this
felt
is
like
doing,
24 hours.
Yeah, what this is doing is like, you know, dude, I don't stay up past 10 o'clock. I was 3 o'clock in the morning down at a campfire, just talking recovery and chasing tail. You know, that's the only reason I was up that late. Like, let's be real. You know what I mean? She smiled at me and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, validate me, boost my ego. Let's go, right? But but like, there's things we do early on. There's a foundation that I can't stay clean on yesterday's recovery, but the foundation I built yesterday is gonna stand today, if that makes sense.
No, it makes
so like
sense.
the foundation was getting a sponsor, being in regular contact with my sponsor, getting a home group, attending that home group regularly, being of service to the home group and others, you know, calling other addicts, talking to them. So sponsorship, home group, talking to other addicts. But like today it's evolved, like there's daily prayer and meditation when I'm willing to meditate, and a lot of my meditative practices have to do with like a yoga routine and stretching and things like that as well, in like a dark room or like in a nature environment, like in my backyard. But just coming to places like this or coming to meetings and really putting my phone down and focusing on the newcomer, because like our 12 step says that, you know, we keep what we have by giving it away.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like for me to maintain, for me to continue to evolve, forget maintain, for me to continue to evolve. And if I stop evolving, then we end up regressing, right?
Right.
Like eventually, like we continue to grow as human beings or we regress as human beings. Like there's no staying stagnant. You know what I mean?
There's no neutral.
Yeah.
You're either forward or reverse.
Exactly. Right. So for me to do that, the spiritual principles that I've learned need to be on display for the newcomer. Does that mean that I've got to go and reach out to every newcomer at the meeting and say, you're coming to the diner with me?
Right.
No, but there is a basic atmosphere of recovery that was, you know, put in place for me of, you know, each 12-step program has lingo. Each 12, you know, each program, you know, has love involved.
The steps are basically the same. It's just it's just the lingo in each
the lingo, the
program.
steps, shaking somebody's hand, giving somebody a hug, making somebody feel welcome, or just generally carrying yourself in a positive, happy manner.
Right.
Speaks volumes to the newcomer and the people that are struggling.
Yeah.
And if I can practice that today, then my life, my personal life's going to be a lot better.
So,
you know what I mean?
How is life today, man? How's life today?
Challenging. Man? Life is challenging. So when I got clean, there was a point where I thought that life was just going to be amazing all the time, right?
Yeah.
But like, there are career challenges. I went through a very traumatic divorce with, you know, a woman I thought I loved, and I 100% did, but like, it was one of the, between kids being involved and the courts being involved and my own heart being broken, like it was one of the most traumatic experiences I've ever gone through.
And
that
you're
wasn't
clean,
even,
so it makes it even harder.
Yeah, and that wasn't even 2 years ago, and I'm still, you know, trying to heal and recover from that. And then there are other challenges like, you know, I had a number of pets die last year, and, you know, love pets. Actually, one of what's funny is, not funny, but, you know, when I was talking about a second step, one of the things in the second step literature that I read talks about unconditional love and finding a loving, caring higher power.
Right.
And I talked a little earlier, if you cut it or not, you know, but my parents didn't teach me to feel loved. My parents didn't outwardly express love. I never learned to be loved, so I had to learn it. And the second step talks about unconditional love. And the only thing I was able to think of the only thing I was able to think of was, you know, the way my dog treats me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I have like a connection with animals in that way, and that I really believe that like they taught me what unconditional love is. So, you know, I had a couple of them pass away, which was rough, and, you know, overall just a lot of career changes, life changes, but at the same time, these things are, you know, there was heartbreak, there was, you know, financial loss, there was, you know, deaths in the past, like, not even 2 years. Like, there's been a lot of shit, I feel like.
Right.
But at the same time, and I never, you know, said goodbye to my stepchildren, which was rough. You know what I mean? I raised them.
Yeah.
I raised them. But that's the rough part. But the beauty of it is, narcotics,
Just say it again.
the beauty of it is that when I walked into a 12-step room, it saved my life. Like, initially, I couldn't get clean. I couldn't stay clean. I couldn't live life without drugs, and I was going to kill myself, and it saved my life.
Right.
And then when I was broken from these traumatic experiences, I walked in with that same desperate feeling of like, I'm not sure if I can go on.
Right.
And like, the people in the rooms rallied around me and showed up for me like I was a newcomer all over again. Mm-hmm. And then I started to experience things in life, like find new hobbies, link up with new friends, learn to love myself without this toxic, you know, narcissist partner, you know, learn to, you know, give back and invest in my own life again.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've done some, like, if I remove the fact that, you know, it was really rough healing from all the trauma, like, I've done some of the most amazing things in the past 1.5 to 2 years. We're talking like hike into the Grand Canyon, jump off of cliffs out west, like go
Recovery conventions all over.
Yeah, and I'm even talking about outside of recovery. Like, I've discovered like all these amazing things. Like, I've traveled all over the country to go to weightlifting competitions. I've, like, you know, rafted all over the country. And then recovery wise, like, you know, we're in West Virginia at a convention that was near and dear to my heart when I was a newcomer, that, you know, when I was married, I stopped coming to because of the way the ex felt about it, you know what I mean? And you know, now I'm back, and the people I've come with completely changed. You weren't there. This is your first time here, right?
First time here, man. It's
a
beautiful.
lot of, you know, but there's, you know, some people are coming every 6 months. I went every 6 months for about 5 years, and then I stopped coming for a while. Now I'm, you know, back again. Like, this place is amazing. The relationships that I've built this time in recovery are amazing, because through the experiences that I have,
Right.
I'm able to take a look at myself and actually get a deeper level of honesty with people. Because the more desperate I get personally, the more honest I have to be with myself and others to get out of that desperation without severe consequences. And at this point, the severe consequences are A, death, like taking myself out, or B, using.
Yeah.
And you know what? A, like the former, not the latter, like, I've been around long enough, I can't use. I don't even want to.
Right.
Like I want to escape, but the thought of using and the consequences are so ingrained in me that the drugs I did are different. The high I had doesn't even exist. Like that warm fuzzy feeling I had, it doesn't even exist. So like, me getting high is not the way I want to get high anyway. Like, that's a fantasy that doesn't even exist anymore.
Right. So
Go
today, good ways out the bed.
100%.
Because
Like,
you're clean. And you're working a program. See, I would add to what you just said about like how you can't even imagine using the consequences. To me, that's just because I know personally, because your program's intact.
Yeah.
You keep a sponsor. You sponsor people. I'm good friends with one of your sponsees. Well, it's because of that.
Yep.
Because you can also do a lot, as long as your program's intact, you can get away with some stupid shit too. And
I'm no stranger to stupid shit.
That has nothing to do with using. So, all right, man, listen, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm fucking sweating my balls off out here.
I wore a black t-shirt on purpose because I'm moist right now.
Yeah, I'm fucking moist.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I usually end the interview with these 5 random stupid questions. It's called the Fast Ass 5. But I usually have them written down, so I might not remember all 5, but I'll just shoot out what I know. All right, so you're going to go summer or winter?
Fall.
You got to be difficult. He's going fall.
Fall's my favorite season.
All right.
It's still warm in the beginning.
I
You got
agree.
Halloween,
I
Thanksgiving.
agree, but that's
All right.
not what I asked. But okay. So you got horror movie or comedy?
Horror.
You're at the barbecue. You going all beef hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
You want hamburger?
Absolutely.
All right. I'll just go. I think that's only 3, but I can only remember the last one, so we'll just do that. This is going to be the fast ass 4 today. Prefer to be brutally honest or lie when you have to?
That's a really good one.
Yes, it is.
Because
Thank you. I wrote that myself.
that's not even a fair question.
I know.
That's circumstantial.
You'd be surprised how many people real quick go brutally honest.
No, that's circumstantial.
Your sponsee sat on this show and just, without even thinking, brutally honest.
Yeah, but I also had a conversation with I don't know which sponsee was on this show, so
Yeah, we
I'm not
won't
going to
say
say.
no names, yeah.
But I've had conversations with my sponsees even today about how maybe using tact instead of brutal honesty is maybe not the most
Yeah.
appropriate
So
way
let's
to go
answer the
about
question.
it.
Let's
can't.
answer the question. No, let's answer the question, man.
I'm not answering the
brutally
question.
honest or lie when you have to, man.
Fuck it, lie when I have to.
There you go. All right. That's going to do it for us. How you doing?
Honesty without compassion is brutality.
There you go.
Lie when I
That's
have
gonna
to,
pick
right?
Up. Yeah, we're good.
No.
He only gave me 2 options.
Yeah, I only gave her 2 options.
I tried to take the middle ground and he didn't let me.
We're talking to people outside the camera, but she said some good stuff. I hope you caught that. But anyway, that's going to do it for us, man. Listen, I appreciate you watching, man. Me and my man here is going to go get a frosty drink because we're hot as fuck right
Yeah,
now.
let's go get
We're
a cold
both-
drink.
You know, the sun and me don't even
Dude, I
get
couldn't-
along as it is. I'm going to be fucking burning out here. But
Yeah, I'm
anyway,
moist.
just remember, the disease of addiction is broad and outside of the realm of just using drugs. Keep coming back. More will be revealed. Out of here.